Good morning and welcome to Joe Sammet Live on this Monday, this beautiful Monday morning, June the 29th. It is a spectacular Monday. I just finished celebrating a birthday weekend and was spoiled rotten, had a wonderful weekend weather-wise. My wife and kids spoiled me, which was absolutely beautiful. So here I am, refreshed Monday, a little bit older, but nonetheless still feeling good. So today we're going to talk about equity takeouts. What does it mean? What does it mean to refinance? I realized over the weekend, celebrating a birthday, that there's a lot of information that I take for granted because I happen to know about our business, about our industry, because I've been doing it for so long. And I realized that as I get older, it doesn't necessarily mean that everybody that I speak to knows what's going on in the mortgage world. So again, that's the whole purpose of these sessions, is to share information, get information out there so people have a better understanding of what it is they can do, what it is they can embark on, and how they can improve or affect their lives positively. So one of the things I want to talk about, and again, it's a thing that I take for granted sometimes, believing or thinking that since I know it, everybody else should know about it as well. One of the things we want to talk about today is the equity takeouts, and what does that mean? So how can it be used? How does it benefit you? Why would you do it? And how can it roll itself out? So just to talk about this, I guess the key thing to start with is that the rule is that you cannot refinance your property today for anything greater than 80% of its value. So to take an example of that, and we've touched on this through some of our credit sessions prior to today, but to touch on what that might mean, we'll use a somewhat simplistic example. If you have a house that's worth $400,000, the maximum you could take equity out is up to $300,000, which is 80% of $400,000. Oh, sorry, $320,000, which is 80% of $400,000. So what that means is that if you have a mortgage on your property of $240,000, and you can take equity out up to $320,000, it means now that you should be able to access up to 80% or $80,000 of equity out of your house. It's subject to qualification, it's subject to credit, it's subject to all of the things that we've discussed over previous weeks. But the key thing is that you do have the ability or the means to go up to 80% of that value. So if we take that example, and if we take some of the reasons why people might want to access the equity, it could very well be to consolidate debt. As we go through this period of COVID, some people have accumulated some debt, and it might very well be an opportunity for them to consolidate or put that debt into a more manageable fashion or more manageable product. One of the things that was happening as we started into COVID was people were coming out of the 2019 holiday season and realizing that they had incurred a lot of debt over the holidays, whether it be due to overspending on gifts or vacations or whatever the case is. They need now to access the equity in their house to pay off some of that debt. Well, again, COVID started and things got a little bit delayed. So for anybody that was perhaps in a little bit of a financial constraint after the holiday season, perhaps they're even in more of a holiday constraint or in more of a credit crisis today, just given what's gone on with COVID. So again, this is a great opportunity for people to look into whether or not they can refinance or access the equity in their home to pay off the high interest rate debt that perhaps they've accumulated in a short period of time or over who knows how long. So it gives you the opportunity to try to consolidate some of that debt. The other reason people might want to access the equity in their home is to do a renovation. Some of the things that people are looking at now is, we've held off on doing our renovation during COVID. We've held off for the longest time. Now it's time to perhaps take the plunge and finish that basement, put on that back deck. We might need to do a new roof. We might need to improve our heating system and our cooling system in our house. So now is an opportunity for somebody to consider refinancing their home, accessing the equity to now pay for those conveniences or pay for those services that otherwise would cost you quite a bit more money. Another thing that people consider is, I have children going off to university or going off to post-secondary school. How can I use the equity in my home to purchase a property that they may be able to live in while in school and perhaps subsidize the carrying cost of that home by them renting out a room to friends and fellow students. So these are all things that people can look at. Now, one of the things that confuses people from time to time is, what is the difference between a refinance and an equity takeout? Well, in theory, they're both pretty much the same. They're accessing equity in somebody's property. But an equity takeout actually means that you are accessing equity in your home to do something else with. A refinance means that you're using equity in your home to pay off what is perceived to be debt that could be paid off by that equity that is made available. So there is a little bit of a difference between the two, equity takeout and refinance. Both are fundamentally the same process, but again, you are either accessing equity in your property as an equity takeout to go and do something more creative with, or you are refinancing the equity in your home for the purpose of paying off or consolidating debt or doing something like that. So again, both very much the same thing, but two very distinct differences when it's being packaged or when it's being applied for and going to a lender. Let's see here. Again, we've touched on renovations. One of the things that is important for anybody that's watching to know is that a renovation could very well be a large scale renovation. So instead of maybe just doing a new roof, you are in fact putting a whole new addition on the property that you own. That is a little bit different. So be very, very aware that if you're taking equity out, you are responsible to, or that equity is made available to you to go and do, again, more creative things with. If you're going to do a large scale construction project on your house, you now need to apply for a different type of financing, and that would be considered to be construction financing. And the reason there's a difference is because when you're dealing with construction rather than a small renovation, construction entails certain rules and regulations and laws. One of the things that you need to be aware of is that if you're doing a large scale construction, you need to do construction lien holdbacks. So basically what happens is the lender will lend money, but hold a certain amount back to make sure that the trades on that job are being protected and make sure that they're being paid properly and according to the agreement that they set out with the person that has hired them. So you want to make sure that if you are doing construction, you have a reputable builder or a reputable contractor. You want to make sure that you have the appropriate permits put in place. You want to make sure that you have good drawings. You want to you basically want to make sure that your money that is being allocated for this construction is going to a good cause and it's going to improve the value of your home. The worst thing in the world would be to over improve your home. So there are certain neighborhoods, certain streets, certain houses that perhaps could be over improved. In other words, if you don't do it right, and if you don't do it within the confines of what your neighborhood will afford, you could very well be spending money on a property that you're never going to get back in the event you were to sell the property. So always be cognizant of that, keep that in mind, and make sure that you lay things out properly with a certified or a very reputable contractor. Now, one other thing we want to talk about today is a mortgage review, because as we're talking about refinances or equity takeouts, regardless of the reason why you want to access that money, it's time to sit down and do a mortgage review. Get a better understanding as to what it is you have, what type of mortgage you have, what it allows you to do, what opportunities it affords you, and things like that. And again, as I mentioned at the onset of the call, one of the things that I realize as I'm getting older is I realize that there are things that I think about that I, again, just take for granted. I look at a mortgage product and I think that everybody should know what that mortgage product means. And in fact, it doesn't. So there are some mortgage products that have restrictions and you want to be aware of them. So mortgage reviews are something that we do quite regularly. And I would invite all of you to share this post with anybody that you know that could very well benefit by a mortgage review, just to get an example or get an idea as to what, again, your mortgage allows you the opportunity to take advantage of. So what I mean by that is, let's say, for example, you are with a particular lender and you want to access $80,000 of equity in your home. Does that mean that you stay with that current lender? Does that mean that you stay with that current mortgage and then just add $80,000 to the back of that mortgage? Or does it mean you may have to rewrite the entire mortgage, pay a penalty to your current lender, and then move your mortgage to a new institution. So those are all of the type of things that we will uncover as we go through the mortgage review. There's no cost to do that. It's just, it gives us an opportunity to take a look at what you have, take a look at what you need, and see whether or not we can make your mortgage work for you. So things that you want to be aware of. Call us, email us, reach out to us, and again, we will gladly, myself or my team will gladly review your mortgage for you. So at this point in time, one of the things that we might get asked is, I have equity in my home. I know I can carry a mortgage, but I don't know how to access it. Well, that's precisely what these mortgage reviews will do. I have equity in my home. I know that I can afford another property. In other words, I can use the equity in my home to buy a rental property. How do I access that equity to allow me to do that? So that is all part and parcel of that review, and that's all part and parcel of requalifying to see what we can qualify you for on perhaps another property. So all sorts of opportunities available to you, all sorts of things that you can do with the equity in your home. There are some mortgages more restrictive than others. And again, let's review it and let's see what it's all about. But don't be afraid to inquire. And one of the things, as I said earlier, about where we take for granted that we know this stuff, we know this because this is what we do for a living. And it's important for you or anybody that you know to access information from people that know what it is that you're trying to accomplish, or know how to do what you're trying to accomplish. Because if you don't look into it, you'll never know. And if you don't look into it, you could lose out on opportunities. So just reach out to us through one of our social media feeds, our phone, email, whatever the case is, and we will gladly get in touch with you to see what we can do to help you with that mortgage review, to see where you perhaps could expand to or where you could evolve to. And that is pretty much everything I wanted to talk about today. I don't have any questions coming in today, so that's okay as well. But by all means, reach out anytime and we'll make sure that we get in touch with you and get answers back to you as fast as we can. Share this, share any post that we've ever done, share it often. And please, again, we're here for you. If you need any help, call us. Talk to you soon. Thank you.